So welcome everybody to the second in our short series of sector conversations we're hosting through Cloudathlete. And today we want to talk about something we think has become one of the biggest strategic issues now in sport, and that is digital in action. Because increasingly the most expensive digital strategy an NGB can adopt is no strategy, and unfortunately I am aware that there are a number of NGBs out there who are operating without digital strategies. So I've spent much of my career working inside national governing bodies, and I know firsthand the pressures that leaders in sport face. Very, very limited resources, lots of competing priorities, lots of stakeholders wanting to influence, small and stretched teams, and a lack of expertise and knowledge and confidence probably in the area of digital as well. Yeah, and I think digital can sometimes feel like something very big, very expensive and very intimidating. And so today, I think, Marc, if we can try and simplify that conversation a little bit and talk about what does digital transformation actually mean and why has the sector become so cautious about it. And let's also talk about why not addressing it is becoming the biggest risk factor facing sport organisations now. So a good session ahead of us, hopefully, Marc. Just some intros for those of you that don't know Marc. He spent years building technology infrastructure, and we've worked together for a number of years. And in that time, Marc has really helped me to understand that digital transformation in sport isn't something to be feared and doesn't necessarily mean radical disruption. And I strongly believe that the whole sector needs better education and understanding on this topic. And that the community sports sector, particularly as a whole, and each individual sport needs to have a digital plan and with that a data plan as well. So Marc, maybe we can start with the obvious question, and why is it that digital transformation has become so difficult for sports leaders and for national governing bodies globally, not just here in England, but globally?
Yeah. Great question. Good place to start. When people hear the phrase digital transformation, people often imagine something huge, hundreds of thousands of pounds of investment, years and years of development, headache, hassle, and, more often than not, I'm afraid to say, under delivery. And that perception didn't come out of nowhere, sadly. Many sports organisations have gone through lengthy and often expensive digital consultations and projects in the past. They've supported commissioned reports, they've explored transformation programmes, and very often these processes end up in one or two places. A strategy document that never quite translates into reality, or a very expensive, often bespoke system that under-delivered or left them over a barrel for more investment, or even worse, hamstrung their current operations, which of course it means that there's an increased need for change over time. So organisations have been burnt and understandably become really cautious about this phrase. I've heard stories firsthand from CEOs in sport everywhere, and so digital projects have started to feel like something risky, expensive, and kind of overall uncertain. Unless NGBs have staff or board members with real knowledge and expertise to drive this forward, and let's face it, this is rare, or a tech provider that can help develop the strategy and hold their hand through the execution of it, then I think it gets put on the too difficult pile too often, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, I think we touched on it last time, but when I was at Table Tennis England, I was part of the NGB membership forum, and there were about 30 different sports on there, and I would say just about every single one of us had tech horror stories to share. And I think genuinely lots of national governing bodies have probably tried to tackle this or have engaged with projects that have tried to tackle this with the Support UK Sport and Sport England. Been involved in consultations, taken part in discovery processes. But if I'm honest, to date, I haven't really seen any significant impact of that work across the sector. Um, of course, there are pockets of improvements, and some of the bigger national governing bodies have definitely made some good strides. And we talked last time, I think, about England Golf, who have got some brilliant technology now that supports their membership products and their iGolf and iPlay products. And I think the FA have got some good stuff, and tennis as well. I can't remember what the court booking system is that the LTA have got, but I think these examples are few and far between. I think many of the smaller NGBs have been left behind, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I think I understand it when you make investments as NGBs into these types of products and something it doesn't work, and you have a bad experience, or like you say, you're sort of over the barrel with a tech provider who you're in contract with, and it's many years before you can get out of that contract. It feels it's very, very risky for
Yeah.
particularly the smaller NGBs or NGBs that have not got the same sorts of monies to invest and potentially risk. And so I think what has possibly happened in some national governing bodies is they've just put the whole digital transformation piece in a box over here, and a bit too hard, and we just sort of put our heads down and hope that it will resolve itself. But what tends to happen, when you kick the can down the road like that, is that the staff who were involved in those projects, they move on. Some of the learning gets lost, the progress that you were making comes to a halt. It's very, very difficult to pick it back up again. Or the alternative is that they just invest more in what they already know, and they look for quick fixes, which inevitably is normally more bespoke builds, and getting deeper and deeper into this sort of tech spaghetti mess, as someone once described it to me as. So yeah, what are your thoughts, Marc, on why this has become such a mountain to climb for some NGBs?
Yeah, I mean, the tech side of the problem to me is really clear. In many sports today, the infrastructure is still one piece of software for membership, competition management another, events somewhere else, learning development another platform, and then in between it all, spreadsheets almost acting as glue, trying to hold everything together. What that means is that data is dispersed across all of that tech stack, and that means that data visualization is difficult. And in order to visualize it, you have to onboard another piece of software to try and make sense of it all, and that amounts to nothing but a horrible experience for members and customers. There are massive inefficiencies for the NGB and its staff and volunteers trying to use it as well. Software licensing fees and contracts that keep organisations stuck because there's no spare cash to invest anywhere, because it's kind of the prices just go up, and they're kind of, this is the stack they have to use. There's pressure to deliver more from funders and boards on this backdrop. And moving forwards often requires stepping back first, which often isn't an option. All of this basically leads to paralysis for leaders and decision makers, and I totally get that. It's very obvious why. I think the space that NGVs operate in now is very difficult, and without strong internal knowledge and expertise, the whole area of digital is overwhelming for organisations. It's just not a nice place to be. But doing nothing is not going to make the problem go away. It's only, in fact, going to make matters worse. So let's define what digital transformation actually is, because I think it's very often understood. It's this kind of, blanket term. Digital transformation is not one massive project. It's not, a moment in time. It's well, at least to me and my organization, the gradual development of digital infrastructure that then supports the entire sports ecosystem. Infrastructure that connects, to each other. In sport, this means membership and licensing, sports governance, competition league entry, rankings, ratings, club management, event management, learning and development, payment processing and financial management, customer service and customer relationship management, reporting and business intelligence, and data. All of this can be optimized and AI enabled when it's brought together as one cohesive package. And then the entire organization and the sport, by inference, functions better. You've got a clear line of sight from one end of that stack to the other with no interruptions. And it really doesn't have to happen all at once. It can be kind of a gradual process. And a structure like this becomes easier to evolve rather over time. Because the world doesn't stand still, things constantly change, and so tech needs to be flexible to change with it.
I think that's a really important point. Digital transformation is not something that you necessarily ever finish, is it? It's just something that you build and improve on continuously. And I think one of the main reasons that sport has struggled with digital evolution and keeping up with the other sectors is that the technology just hasn't been available to it. So, a few platforms have dominated the membership space, and a few different ones have dominated the club and competition management space. And then, maybe some non-specific sport platforms have picked up some of the other pieces. And some sports have gone off and done their own bespoke builds, I think, as a consequence of that. And, I imagine there are pros and cons to that as well. But it's resulted in, some really fragmented systems and, a real nightmare really to manage and administer and to build upon. Why don't we put something in the chat here and see if we can get some people here to engage with what we're talking about. So if you're live with us in the chat, or if you're watching back in the comments, how much different software is your national governing body or federation currently using? What does your tech stack look like? And, have you got different bits of tech stitched together with APIs? And, what are the challenges with operating in this way for you and your organisation, but also the volunteers that are probably helping to run and administer your sport, and also your members and your customers, what sort of experience have they got? So, let us know, because it would be very interesting to hear the different examples across sports, and also if there are some good examples as well. But my feeling is that actually that there is, at the moment, there's been quite a low bar set across the sports sector with tech. I think the industry standard is pretty poor. And it's not that sports are necessarily competing with one another for customers, although I suppose they probably are in some ways, but it's more about that there just aren't trailblazers in this space, I think, that are exciting others to follow in their footsteps. And I don't really see maybe if there's a few small examples, but I don't really see full sort of digital infrastructures that are really wowing the sector and inspiring NGBs to have. Um, so yeah, but perhaps until now, Mark. So let's talk a little bit about the Cloudathlete product.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're right. We aren't seeing any kind of, there's no wows, there's no kind of disruption, to use, a well used term. And I think if there was, then, yeah. That's exactly it. That's exactly what Cloudathlete was designed to do. So, what the sector really needs is infrastructure designed specifically for sport, but flexible enough to adapt to different organisations. So not rigid software, so kind of not membership platforms, not kind of the modules that make up a sport tech stack, but instead a configurable platform. And that really is the philosophy behind Cloudathlete. It was designed to solve a structural problem in sports technology that we've just been discussing here. So instead of separate systems for membership, competitions, events, communication, payments, you name it, the full, everything that worries a modern NGB, Cloudathlete provides one connected digital backbone for all of that. So each organization can configure the modules it needs and exclude the ones that it doesn't. And because everything sits inside the same infrastructure, data flows through it automatically. You have one single source of truth. And that dramatically reduces manual work. So again, you're freeing people up to do stuff that they're best at, not admin. And it creates a much better experience for members, just as part of the bargain, as well as volunteers and administrators. From a sports governance perspective, that's incredibly powerful too, because essentially it returns time and capacity to organizations. You can do more of what the organization started to do, was set up to do. Instead of spending time managing systems, sport can focus on growing participation, supporting clubs, developing competitions, building commercial partnerships, other income streams. And, when that happens, technology is no longer this kind of scary, risk-laden thing, an abstract mass. It's an enabler. And the biggest risk, in my view, to sports organisations isn't digital change, it's digital stagnation. And that's what we're currently seeing across the industry.
It worries me, and we spoke about this on the first webinar we did when we were talking about membership, but commercial operators will step in because there's massive opportunity here. And I genuinely believe that will happen if NGBs, don't embrace digital transformation, digital change, and build digital infrastructures that are relevant for today's world and today's markets. New products that are enabled by technology, more flexible, more accessible, more relevant, more affordable. Because if they don't, participants will go somewhere where it's easier and more modern. And, unfortunately, if that happens, the NGBs will start to lose visibility and relevance to, its audience and its own ecosystem.
Absolutely.
And I think, where NGBs do invest in the digital infrastructure, they'll gain a real advantage. And we've seen it. And again, we spoke about some sports last time that have done this, but around some of the things that you said, operational efficiency, not only does that create a much better environment for everyone, it presents massive opportunity to put resource elsewhere. And then the data and the insights we've touched on, the much stronger engagement with the customers, and real scalable growth then as well, and just a culture and a environment where innovation is possible and can continue, and not this this fear. So yeah, I think it's a really important message that digital transformation isn't something that the sector should fear, despite what might have happened in the past. I think technology has moved on an awful lot since then, and what you've developed with Cloudathlete is really exciting. So, something that sports should embrace gradually and intentionally. It doesn't all happen overnight, does it? But it should be hugely exciting. So, let's ask another question in the chat, or if you're watching back in the comments. What is your organisation's approach to digital transformation? Are you actively shaping your digital future, or are you waiting for somebody else to do it so you can copy it, or are you hoping that the problem will go away? So yeah, please do engage in this conversation either in the chat now or in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this discussion. So Marc, just tell us a little bit more about Cloudathlete, how it works, how it's different from the other products available to NGBs right now. Yeah, tell us a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in a nutshell, it's Cloudathlete is fully configurable digital infrastructure. So you shape it. It's kind of fully configurable by the sport itself, which is the important thing. It's not set up by anybody else. You guys are in charge of it, and it's been uniquely designed to power modern sport. So, and what I mean by that is it was born out of two things. One, my personal frustration with the bad reputation that tech's got within the sports sector, which I hear on a daily basis. And two, as a sports lover, the desire for sport to do better, to attract more people to play, to provide a better user onboarding experience, to engage and excite people, to create more commercial opportunities, but ultimately to grow and thrive and not stagnate. Sport represents so much to the world, to its audience. It would be a shame not to capitalize on that, not to take the challenge to grow. So using my experience of working in the sports industry for the last many years, and with a lot of blood, sweat and tears, me and my team kind of committed to building Cloudathlete. Cloudathlete's features basically allow NGBs to replace nearly all of the software in the tech stack. So, out of the gate, you've got huge cost savings because you can say goodbye to your email platform, your survey platform, your data visualization platform, your web building software, your comms software straight away. So huge cost savings before you've started to get into the real power of the thing. And then you've got the ability to exponentially improve your operational efficiency because it's all hooked together. So that does a few things, but kind of critically, it reduces the need for manual input all of the time. You don't need to export CSVs and move the data from here to over there. It's all in there as one source of the truth, a system of record, if you like. And that facilitates membership growth. And it basically gives the sport an ROI that just keeps on giving, because it's moldable, and it can support a seamless one single point of entry user journey that enables activity engagement all in one place while significantly improving experience and in turn conversion and adoption. All of its key features are fully customizable, and the structures and the bodies that sit beneath them, that's within its core operations, such as membership and licensing management, sports governance management, competition, league entry management. All of that kind of sits in the same place, entirely customizable. And On top of all that, you've got AI. So Cloudathlete comes with Cloud IQ, which is our own AI model. And that basically does a number of things. It's not your traditional sprinkling of AI, which is essentially a chatbot on steroids. It is a fully functioning, intelligent aid to managing sport. So it will build you a website, it will build you a customer survey following an event. It will help you to arrive at decisions. It will help you to visualize data, irrespective of your skill set in data visualization. All of that comes together in quite a powerful package, we think.
Yeah. Yeah, I genuinely believe what you have built, Marc, is something that has got the power to completely transform both NGBs operationally and their operations and their delivery of sport. And you've got a number of early adopters of the tech, don't you? So you're working with Table Tennis England, Table Tennis Wales, USA Fencing, World Boccia. Who else?
Special
Special
Olympics,
Olympics.
GB, the Danish Pump Federation, Touch England. Um, And if you want to explore what modern digital infrastructure could look like for your organisation, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
If you go to our microsite start.cloudathlete.org and book a call with us if you like, and we'll or post a comment. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to show you what the potential of the platform for your organisation.
Yeah, and over the coming weeks, we'll be starting to release some little demo videos and things, won't we? So that people can see behind the scenes on the platform and actually what it is capable of. But I think you've given people a really good flavour there of the huge depth of infrastructure that you have built and how that is customizable to each and every sport, and both at federation and NGB level, but right the way down through the sports structures, depending on how that operates. So thank you, Marc. I unfortunately think that's probably about all we've got time for today. So again, I think it's been a very interesting conversation. And thank you to everyone who has joined us, or those of you that are watching back. Like I say, please do engage in the chat and the comments. And we look forward to seeing you next time when we'll have another conversation about a structural theme that's shaping the future of sport. And if you'd like to join us on the next webinar or be part of the conversation, we'd love to hear from you. So get in touch. And if you think you've got a topic that's worth us discussing, then do let us know. But until then, thanks everyone. And yeah, goodbye. See you, Marc.